Hello and welcome everyone, it's Karen. I'm so excited to be able to share this video with you because it's part of the Gerdersteiner Designs Christmas 2021 Advent Calendar. Today the video is all about making box cards without any special dies. I love the look of the box cards, but the dies typically range in price from about $30 to $60 US, and that's just out of my budget because that's a whole lot more here in Canada. And so if you're like me and you want to make some box cards, I'm hoping that this video helps. So this is the first box card I've made. It's an A2 regular box, I'm calling it. There are no flaps. It's got a tall back and I've angled those sides. So I've rounded the top back, as you can see, and there's the angled sides. The assembled box is 3.5 by 4.25 inches tall, or big, I guess. And so I'm going to show you, I'll give you a chance a bit later to take a screenshot, and I will link below everything that I've used in this video, so just check the description box below. So as you probably know if you've seen my other videos, I'm a lazy math person, so I just took the width of my ruler, which is 1 inch, and that's how wide the cross pieces are and the front, and it's how I decided where to angle the back. So that's all it is. So just take a screenshot of that if you're interested in making this box, or pause and write it down. So to make that Nutcracker box, the first thing I did is I have got some wet watercolor card, and I'm just tapping on some Cosmic Shimmer Pixie Sparkle powder, and I think that is Teal Marine and Blue Wish, but I will link it below. So I let that dry overnight, and now I'm putting on some Nuvo Glacier paste. I think that's Winter White, and the stencil is from Echo Park. I just wanted to have a little bit more sparkle on this and a little more festive, I guess. So I'm just spreading that on. It's a really pretty stencil, actually. And there you can see all that extra sparkle, and in real life there's a whole lot more, quite honestly. So now I've cut out my side pieces and the front bottom crossbar from that watercolor card, and I am creasing the front cross piece 1/4 inch from each end, and all the other cross pieces, the step parts that go up and down it, are going to be exactly the same width and creased also at 1/4 inch. And these side pieces you want to crease 1/4 inch on the long edge, just the long side. So there they are. Now you see there's a little bit of a point on those. I usually take my scissors and cut that pointy bit off. So if you just fold it out and cut straight across, it neatens it up a little bit. Okay, so I always have a mistake, and I'm going to show it to you here. I thought, oh, I'll just cut them out like that. I just had it turned over, but look, I've got 2 side pieces that go the same way. So I had to go back and cut another piece. So I'm showing you now, my solution to this is now that one wrong piece is now my template. So you could do that and just save it in a binder with your instructions, and then you would always get it right, unlike me. Okay, so to cut that rounded back, I just found one of my circle dies that was just slightly wider than the width of this card, and it extends past the side edges, so I'm just taping there where it goes past. And I made sure the top just goes to the edge of that watercolor card, and I partial die cut that to make that rounded back. Now, I like to add a flap on the back where you can write a message, and this is how I do it. So I've cut this 3.5 inches wide, which is the width of the finished card, and it was tall enough to go, and I'm doing exactly the same thing with this circle die. I am just extending it slightly past the top folded edge, and I'm going to put masking tape on the sides where it just extends past the side edge of this card. And then I will partial die cut through both layers of this, and it will give me a back that is going to match up with the back that I've already die cut. I hope that makes sense. So there you can see there's a little hinge at the top, and so now I can attach that to the back to write a message. Now for the cross pieces, I find it easiest to cut the whole thing the same width to make sure it's the right width, and then I just cut 1 inch pieces. And again, I'm going to score and crease all of those at 1/4 inch. And then all of those will need some double-sided tape on those flaps. And the same on the flaps on the side pieces. Okay, so here I realized, oh, I don't have to have that little flap showing. I could sandwich it between the back and that piece I've made. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just putting some more double-sided tape on here on the other side of the flap. And then what you want to do is make sure the bottom is lined up and that the side edge of the back is pressed right against the fold line on the side flap. And the same on the other side. So line up the bottom edge and then really make sure it's pressed up against that crease. And then for the front flap, same thing, take the release paper off, line up the bottom edges and just press that one down. Now I found because this was watercolor cardstock, it just wasn't quite as thick. So I cut a little piece that was just the width of the inside between the flaps, and I'm just gluing that on to, give it a bit more strength on the front. Okay, to attach the flaps, you want to just stagger them down that side. So I'm starting near the back, and I'm putting this one right up against that, or pretty much right up against that diagonal line on the side flap. And you just want to be sure that they're going horizontally across, that they're not a little angled or anything, and then just stagger the next one down, make sure it goes horizontally across, and then finally the third one. And this one gave me a little more trouble, but so you can see that they are just staggered going down that left-hand side. It really doesn't matter where you put them. If you want them further apart, you can, or closer together, you can do that. Now I was checking there to see if I could take the release paper off all of them and fold this flap over, but I couldn't because that bottom one is a bit closer to the bottom. So I just did all the flaps and then removed the release paper on the front cross piece. And just line it up with the bottom again. And that's really how hard this is. It's not bad. I do find you have to fold and bend these. It's like any paper, moving paper parts. It works better if you fold it more often. So I usually fold it back and forth a few times. So here I am just gluing that back onto this. I just find it easier with the glue that you can sort of wiggle it around to make sure it's in place. And back and forth. And there you can see that little flap at the back, which is kind of nice for writing a message. Okay, so to put these little pieces in, they're all colored up from the Gerda Steiner Designs Nutcracker stamp set. You just want to put them on little pieces of acetate, and those are about 1/4 inch wide. Now, you can put them anywhere on these steps. You can put them on the back of the box, the sides, wherever you want. This little one I'm going to put on the front, so I am just measuring where that bottom tab comes out, and that's where I want to cut it off because obviously you don't want it coming out the bottom. And I'm just putting a little piece of double-sided tape now on that tab, and because I'm going to stick it to the front of the box, I've put it on the front of the tab. So then she can just sit right there against the front. Now normally what I do is I feel with my left hand where the cross piece ends, and that's where I cut the tab off, because you can't have any double-sided tape exposed because obviously it will stick the box down. So the cross pieces are only 1 inch wide, so I just cut a little piece of tape that is a little bit smaller than that, and then I feel again with my left hand where that cross piece is, and that's where I stick it down. And you can have them coming out the sides. What you just want to be careful of is that your envelope, it fits inside. So if that little girl had been any higher, she may not have fit into the envelope. And my envelopes are, I think it's 6.5 by 4 3/4 inches. I'm not entirely sure, but just check with whatever envelope you're planning on using. And just make sure it doesn't extend past that. So there I've put everything in and a few more snowflakes, and the sentiment is also from the Nutcracker stamp set. And it's just fun. You can put as much in or as little in as you want. You can put things on the sides, wherever you want it. Just make sure it fits into your envelope. So that little star up in the top right corner, I just wanted to point out it's a thinner acetate, so it wiggles a bit more and jiggles around a bit. So just take note of that when you're choosing the acetate that you use for the tabs. Okay, so this is a square box. It is probably the easiest of all of these box cards to make, so if you are worried, I would start with this one. It ends up being 2.5 by 3.5 inches assembled. You score the flaps at 2.25 inches, and it's about a 10.5 inch wide piece of card. Now I'm using the Gerda Steiner Designs Christmas Puppies stamp set here in this example. But you can, of course, use whatever stamp set you've got and feel free to make it your own. So just take a screenshot of that or pause and write it down. Here I've scored at that 2.25 inches for the flaps, and I've just trimmed the side edge off for the flap, and I have some Christmas wrapping paper from Costco, and I just thought that would make kind of a fun side on this. So use what you've got, guys. I've glued it on, and I find it easier to glue that down before you make these creases, because otherwise you have to crease both and then attach them exactly right. So it was pretty thin wrapping paper, and it was easy to do this way. So as you can see, I'm scoring every 2.5 inches there. That's to make all the sides. Now on the short side, you're going to cut to that crease line to make the flaps. And I did corner round those on mine. You don't have to, of course. You can make the flaps longer if you want them longer too. So it's whatever you want. Okay, so this was kind of a fun idea I came up with. I had this piece of packaging from, I think it was from a Slimline die set, and I decided to make this into a shaker card as well as a pop-up box card. So here I'm using my tape runner, and I'm just going along under the flaps there and at each end and right directly across the fold lines on that wrapping paper. And I'm going to put that piece of plastic packaging down over that, kind of lining up by the end by the flap and then going straight across. It was a little bit wider, and I end up just trimming that excess off. But as you can see, it makes little pockets there, so I'm just finger folding it over and sort of creasing that down, so I've got a crease in the plastic, and here I'll just trim the excess off there. I have played with this quite a bit, and nothing has come out, so I think it's okay. Now on the inside, I'm putting this 1/8 of an inch double-sided tape down, and I've got a mix there of shaker bits that I am just going to put into each of these little pockets. Now I think I would use a funnel, a paper funnel, make something to put it in there, because it was a bit messy. I had stuff all over my desk. So there it is. Now all you do is remove this release paper, and you've already folded that over, so it kind of, that plastic sort of goes anyway, and I just folded it down on top and made sure it was pressed down onto that double-sided tape. And there you have it. And yeah, it does shake. It doesn't look like it here, but it does move around, I promise. And then you're just going to fold the flaps back down, and I creased them with my bone folder. So now to put these cross pieces in, I like to start where the flap on the box end is. And I make sure the flaps on my cross pieces point in the same direction. So I'm lining this one up with the top, with the flap crease line. Just trying to make sure it goes straight across. And the left flaps, you can see they're all pointing the same direction when I put them down. And of course, you're just going to stagger these the way you want them as well. Like I don't measure these at all. You just kind of space them as evenly as you can. And each time I am lining it up with the crease line to make sure it goes straight. So I'm putting it right up to that crease line and pushing down that flap on the left. Now you're going to fold all of these crease flaps back so the tape is showing up, and remove that release paper from all 4 tabs. And then all you do is you fold this box over and press it down onto the tabs. And I am tucking that bottom one in with my thumb. I know it didn't really look like it, but I was just trying to make sure it was there underneath that other tab. So as you can see, it doesn't quite go straight at first, so you have to keep folding and creasing these. It's just the way of paper, I guess. So I just moved it back and forth a few times, and then it does stand up straight. Now here I've added more of that wrapping paper to each of the flaps and a few snowflakes, and that sentiment is from the Christmas Puppy stamp set. And I'm just making sure here now. I'm starting to put everything in, and I had this little banner. Honestly, you don't see it in the end too much, but I was just trying to make sure that it was lined up and not sticking up too high. So don't forget to measure up with the envelope you're planning on using. So here it is, it's finished. And I've got all the little animals in there. I've put some pom-poms on their little hats. I did make an extra card for this because there is nowhere on the square box card to add a message. So I just made an extra little card to stick in, and there it is. And it's kind of fun that it is a shaker as well because, yeah, you can shake it. And there's a little bell on the one dog, and it's kind of fun. It makes a little bell sound. Okay, so the next one is this mini Slimline, as I'm calling it. It's got a tall back. There are no flaps on it. I did straight sides, but if you want, you can make them angled, of course. Now, just for fun, I changed up the width of the front pieces, or the height of them. It's 1.5 inches. So there's the example I've made. I've used Gerda Steiner's Valentine penguins on this one. And you can see the difference now between the sides. So that one is a little bit deeper. You can add a bit more detail to the front. It's just what you want. Honestly, the sky's the limit, guys. Whatever you want to make, you can do it. If you're not using a die, you can change it up. So just take a screenshot if you're interested in that one. And here is a Slimline. There's no flaps on it again. It's got a tall back, and I've angled the sides. It's 6 inches by 4 inches assembled. It's quite a big one. It would have to go into a Slimline envelope for sure. Now here I have created on the back, I've partial die cut that heart. These are actually the new dies from Creative Expressions by Sue Wilson, obviously for their Valentine's release. And I just thought it'd be fun to have the back as a bit of a heart, and then all those little bits are from her accessories kit. So take a screenshot if that's the one that you're interested in, or pause and write it down. And I just thought I would mention this one. I did do a video on this before, and it's a front pop-up box, but I think you could make a box by a Christmas tree with a dog jumping out or something. Or I don't know, there's all kinds of things you could do. So I will link to this. Actually, it's in my playlist on pop-up boxes. So check in there if you're interested in how to make that one. But that's a few there. I've got an extra one down at the bottom with flowers that I had done before, but make them whatever size and shape you want. It's just kind of fun to play with these. So many ideas, so many stamp sets you could use with these. So I really hope that that video has helped and that it gives you a little bit of inspiration. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you again next time.